Let's answer some questions. Hello Owen. Hello. I have recently been making this Airfix 1/72 scale Stuka and has seemed to have fallen into an issue. I have got a lot of glue stuck to the main fuselage and I was wondering if it would affect the way that the paint goes on. In terms of how the paint adheres to the model, it shouldn't do, but once you've painted the model, those gluey fingerprints are going to show through. So what I'd recommend that you do is get some fine grade sandpaper, probably 800 grit or above, or at the very least get a nail file and try and sand down those bits of glue, and that should take the surface back to being smoother and then it won't be a problem. So I hope that helps, and good luck building your Stuka, and I look forward to seeing it when it's finished. What is the best way for doing the guide wires? So I actually don't have much experience with doing guide wires, but I know that you can buy special wire that is specifically for modelling and applying, rigging to ships and things. However, I did get a message off someone the other day. I'm sorry that I can't remember who it was, but they recommended using hair extensions because the hairs are so thin, it actually works on quite small scales. And they were saying make sure that you just put a dot of glue on either end rather than trying to tie it off to anything. So yeah, I'd recommend you either look into buying some hair extensions or getting some modelling wire. If anyone else has any suggestions, please leave them in the comment section. So I hope that helps, and good luck with finishing your model. What would you consider to be the best part of scale modelling? I don't know if this really counts as an answer to that, but for me, I think it's being able to share what I learn and what I do with people online through social media and through these videos and things. I find that really rewarding. And I think it's important that we all share what we learn and what we do and inspire other people. And I also like seeing what other people do with their models, and when you send me your photos of your models, I always think that that's really inspirational as well. So I really like the sharing aspect of it. Quite a few questions here. Hi Owen, what inspired you to enter scale modelling? So I think it must have been when I was about 6 years old that my parents decided to clear out the loft, and my dad produced this box which was full of all of his little model soldiers and tanks, and I thought that they were so cool. And one Christmas my dad bought me a tank kit, and so we sat and made that together, and I really enjoyed that. But I was actually more interested in the model trains at the time, and so for the next few years, me and my dad built this amazing model railway. Then when I was about 8 or 9, my friends at school started playing Warhammer 40k, so I started buying that and playing that, and that's probably when I really started, painting and building things properly. Then when I was about 14, we went on a school geography trip to the Trafford Centre in Manchester, and there was a model shop there, and I saw the box for a Revell Lancaster bomber, and I was like, that is so cool, I've got to buy that. So yeah, I kind of bought it and snuck it into a little bag because I didn't want anyone else to see that I'd been buying scale models. And yeah, I built that, and then that's what really started me onto building aircraft and tanks and everything that I do now. What's the least amount of fun you've ever had when making a model? The kit that I've struggled with most has been the Bismarck. I've never built a ship before, and I didn't do any research into how to build a ship and paint a ship before I started it. So I just kind of did everything in the wrong order, and then I had to kind of redo what I had done, and then I felt like it wasn't going to be a very good video because I feel like I should know everything to then teach you guys who are watching. And there were lots of tiny little parts that were really fiddly, and I wasn't looking forward to the rigging, and I bought photo etch for it, which was just a whole nother thing. So yeah, I just wasn't enjoying it really, and that's why I've never finished it. And maybe one day I will. Maybe. When should I apply varnish? Well, there's no like set rules for when you should. However, generally you probably want to apply varnish after you've done the decals so that the decals and the paint are protected from any weathering that you do. And then also, once you have done the weathering, to seal that onto the model, especially if you've been using powders or anything like that. Just be careful not to get varnish on any clear parts. Gloss varnish on clear parts is fine, but satin and matte varnish create a weird kind of frosted effect. So keep those away from clear parts. Do you know how to apply washes properly and not remove the paint underneath the wash, as I'm having a problem with that? I think the problem that you're probably having is you're using an oil wash, which means mixing oil paints with enamel thinner or white spirit to make it really thin and runny, and then applying that over oil-based or enamel paint. And probably what is happening is the thinner that you're using in the wash is stripping the oil paint that's underneath it. So the way to stop that from happening is to either paint the model with acrylic paint and then apply an oil wash, because the acrylic is more water-based and the oil wash is oil-based, so the thinner in the oil wash won't strip the acrylic paint. Or what you can do is paint the model with oil paints and then put a coat of acrylic varnish over the paint before you apply the wash, because that layer of acrylic will protect the oil paint underneath it. Or you could stop using an oil wash, and I know that quite a few companies do different modelling washes and stuff, and those washes might be more water-based and therefore they won't strip the oil paint. If you guys have any suggestions for good ones, please leave them in the comments. So I hope I explained that clearly and that makes sense and that helps you. Is there any kind of model where weathering is avoided to give it maybe a cleaner look? If not, are there any cheap ways to make it? I mean, at the end of the day, it's your model, so you can choose whether you want to weather it or not. I know that some people really like their models to look like they've just come out of the factory. Some people like them to look like they've been through hell. I kind of go a bit in between. I like to do a little bit of weathering but not go too overboard. I mean, the simplest and cheapest ways to weather something is probably applying a bit of chipping or doing a bit of colour modulation using the paints that you already own. I'd recommend doing that. And then on my Cromwell video that I did last week, I just used some chalk powder from Artist Chalk Pastels and scraped that off with a knife and dusted it over the model, and then sealed it with a spray of matte varnish. So that was a pretty simple and cheap way of doing it. I wouldn't recommend using diluted acrylic paint. I tend to find that that doesn't work well for washes, but if you want to dilute oil paint, that does work well for washes. The only thing to bear in mind is what I said in the answer to the previous comment. Is Humbrol your favourite brand of paint? Are there any others? I wouldn't say that Humbrol is my favourite brand of paint, actually. I would say that recently I've been using Revell Aquacolor and I really liked those. I think that the metallic aquacolors are a lot better than the metallic Humbrol ones, especially for acrylic paint. However, I mostly end up using Humbrol paint just because that's what I bought, when I started the hobby. So I've just kept it and most of it hasn't dried out actually, so I still use it. Quite a few people have asked me this one. Are you going to IPMS Telford this year? Unfortunately, I can't say. I would like to. However, because of my job, it's kind of short notice contracts doing a couple of weeks of work. So if something comes up and it happens to be over the Telford weekend, unfortunately I'll have to miss it because I need the job. But I would like to, and it would be lovely to see you guys there. I'll keep you updated as to whether I'm going or not. So unfortunately I've run out of time. Thank you so much for everyone who sent in their questions. I apologise that I can't get around to answering all of them, but I'll try and do it by typing them out over the next few days. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learnt something new, and I'll see you next time.